up? Oh, you're here for the video? Oh, okay. Okay, so somebody requested this video like 5 months ago, and I was like, yeah, no, I'll do it really soon. Yeah, that didn't happen. And the reason is all of our equipment is being used, for most of summer, and it's never all in the same spot. So it's so hard to do a equipment tour video because I'd be driving all around the country. I'd probably put 150 miles in my car just doing it. But now that things are kind of slowed down, we're not really doing anything until harvest, everything is kind of back in here and between this and another place. So I will be able to do it for you guys today. Don't know what any of this is, but let's just get into it. Now, I have this problem with liking to explain everything in great detail. In fact, this is not my first time trying to shoot this video. It's like my third or fourth. And every time I do it, the video ends up being like 2 hours long because I just explain everything about everything. So I'm going to try not to do that today. I'm just going to kind of brush over everything, explain what we use it for, why we have it. And so, yeah, if you have any questions at all, if there's something I didn't cover or something that you want explained better, leave a comment below and I'll be very glad to answer it. I'll start the tour here. This is our John Deere R4038 sprayer. We've had this sprayer for 2 seasons. Before it, we had a 4730. So this sprayer has a 120-foot boom and a 1,000-gallon tank. Now, in early spring, before the crops come out of the ground, we have some really big fat tires on this to really help compaction when spraying pre-emerge. However, once the crops come out of the ground, those tires are too wide and damage the crops, so we end up putting the pizza cutter tires back on. And yes, my family did call them pizza cutter tires before Zach Johnson posted his video, just for the record. So we have 2 planters. We have a corn planter and a soybean planter. Our corn planter is a John Deere DB60, so that's 24 rows at 30 inches wide. So DB stands for Bower Bar, which doesn't make sense to me, because Bower Bar should be BB60, not DB. Unless I'm pronouncing it wrong, it should be DB or Dower Bar, but I don't think that's right. Anyways, I digress. 24 rows. The Bower Bar basically is it's a heavier physical bar that all the units attach to, and it has some really wide tires in the back. This really helps the compaction. You'll hear me talk about compaction quite a bit in this video. Our soil is really heavy, so we have really, really bad compaction issues. So anywhere that we can, reduce compaction, we usually try to. So we would really like to someday get tracks in our planter, but tracks anything is really expensive. So at the current moment, the Bower Bar tires do a great job at distributing the weight of the seed and liquid application. Now, this planter is a high-speed planter. However, it is not a John Deere ExactEmerge. We actually are running precision units, which are currently missing. They should be right here. But other than the precision planting units, which are missing, we also have the hydraulic downforce and the air row sweeps. And I think this basically is everything on Precision's lineup, but I don't know it all by heart. So this is our soybean planter. It's a John Deere 1790 1631 split row. So if just the bottom rows are down, it is 16 rows at 30 inches, so 40 foot wide. However, you can drop these top rows down, which go in between every row, so it becomes a 31 row 15-inch planter. The reason we like 15-inch rows is because of weed pressure, mainly. So if the rows are closer together, first of all, there's less space for weeds to actually grow. And second of all, because the rows are closer together, the beans create a canopy faster, blocking sunlight from hitting the ground. So that makes the really small weeds that haven't actually popped over the soybean canopy yet really suffer. This is our John Deere 8360 RT. I want to say it's around a 13-14 model year, not 100% sure. This tractor's main job is to run the corn planter. Once again, we have the track tractor for compaction reasons. Originally, we had that tractor on the planter, but we had so many compaction issues that, like, as you're driving by a cornfield, you could actually see everywhere the tractor drove down the field because the corn was shorter and was a lighter colored green, and it was really obvious and frankly was not good. So we got the track tractor and the Bower Bar planter, and it really fixed a lot of those issues. This tractor, excuse my jump there, is running 24-inch tracks, and in the cab, as you will see, is set up for planting at the moment. We are also running the IVT transmission, and all these monitors in here, I'll try to explain them. This is the hydraulic box for the planter. This is the controls for the clean sweeps. This is our precision planting monitor. This is a bracket to put the iPad, which has field view on it. Don't remember what this bracket's for. This is a camera, so we can monitor the clean sweeps and down pressure and all that. And then this is a monitor which has all the tractor systems integrated onto. Other than planting in the spring, this tractor also does a little fall tillage, usually chisel plowing. Next to the 8360 RT is our John Deere 8335R. This tractor's main job in the spring is planting soybeans. Now, I know what you're going to say, I thought you said you like less compaction and tracks and planting. Well, we do, but tractors are very, very expensive. So, as much as we'd love to get a tractor on our soybean planter, it's just so expensive. So, this is what we've been using, and it does a fine job. It's basically the exact same tractor as 8360 RT, just wheels, and it has a power shift transmission instead of IVT. This tractor's other job, other than planting, is in the fall it either runs a grain cart, which looks like will be what it will be doing, which looks like what it will be doing this fall, and if it's not on the grain cart in the fall, it's on the vertical tillage, which is behind the other tractor, which I'll get to in a little bit. This is our Brent Avalanche 1396 grain cart. Once again, tracks because compaction. Like I said again, we would love to have a tractor on our grain cart, but it's just so darn expensive. At the current moment, it's not really feasible. But the tracks on the grain cart are absolutely amazing. Before this, we had a Kinsey 1050 soft tread grain cart, which is the big wheels on the side. And wheeled grain carts compact the absolute living crap out of our soils here in southern Minnesota. It was so bad that like the end rows after we finished a field with those tired grain carts were so rock hard we could hardly even veer them, if we could veer them at all. But with the tracks, we have seen great improvements in our compaction. Behind the grain cart is our John Deere 8320R. Now this is one of our favorite tractors, and let me tell you why. We actually bought this thing brand new in 2010, and 2010 was the first model year of the R Series 8000 tractors. Now let me tell you why that's important. The first reason, well, this isn't really a reason why it's important, but it's an easy way to tell. Round headlights. The first year, maybe the first 2 years, had round headlights, which doesn't really matter. The newer ones have the fancier, well, headlights that look like that. But the big reason we really like this tractor is this. You see how small this muffler is? Compared to this, the reason it's a lot smaller is because this tractor is actually pre-emission, so no DEF and no emissions, no big canister hanging off the side of the exhaust. And now I'm not saying that emissions, that low emissions, clean emissions is a bad thing. It's probably a good thing, but it's a pain in the butt, so we like this. Now back when we bought this tractor 10 years ago, it basically did everything. It ran the planter, it ran the anhydrous bar, which is behind the 8360 RT right now. It ran the grain cart. It did tillage after fall, after it was done using grain cart. It did some weird random tillage in the summer. It did everything. But now that we have, well, these two tractors, it's kind of our spare. So in the spring, it just sits in the shed, ready to be hooked up to a planter, which in case, one of these two tractors breaks down, this can be hooked up to a planter and go in a pinch. During the summer, it gets put in the anhydrous bar, and during the fall, well, usually in the fall, it's actually put in the grain cart, but this year, for some reason, we're putting the 8335 on the grain cart, and so this year, it'll be on the vertical tillage. So vertical tillage is basically just another type of fall tillage. So basically, you get some of the benefits of tillage while getting less erosion. So we do a lot of our hillier farms with this. Now, I know I didn't show you the cab of the 8335R, but it's basically identical to this. So these tractors, pretty bare bones. You just got your guidance. That one has a scale in it and the control for the grain cart. Other than that, they're both 16-speed power shifts. Yeah, not much difference. So we have two combines. We have a John Deere 9870 and a John Deere S780. We run both of them in soybeans at the same time, but we only run one in corn. And the reason for that is in soybeans, soybeans don't yield that much, so you can have two combines going, and it's really easy to stay ahead with the grain cart. It's really easy to stay ahead with the trucks and storage. And we like to get soybeans out as fast as we can, so that way we can get moving on to corn. The only reason we only run one combine in corn is because corn yields a lot more than soybeans, so we're not able to keep up with the grain cart. We're not going to be able to keep up with the trucks. We're not going to be able to keep up with the grain dryers if we had two combines, so we only run one in corn. Anyways, our first combine, like I said, is a John Deere 9870 STS. It's actually not here today. It's at the dealership getting inspected before this harvest. But however, I do have a lot of footage of it from previous years, so I'll just talk over that. The John Deere 9870, in our opinion, and in the opinion of many mechanics, especially near us, is probably the best modern combine John Deere has ever made. And the reason for this is a couple things. First of all, 9870 had a bigger motor than the 9770, the 9760, etc., so it had more power. Second of all, it has plenty of electronics, enough electronics for it to be user-friendly, but not enough that everything's electronic. So if something breaks on it, there's a good chance that we can fix it in the field ourselves because it's mechanical. Third reason is it produces the cleanest grain sample that we've ever seen. It produces a way cleaner grain sample than our S780, and I think the reason is in the S780, S790, S680, and S690, they made the cleaning shoe in the combines bigger, but they didn't increase the airflow at all. So we don't think there's enough airflow going over that clean grain shoe to produce a nice clean sample. Our other combine is this, our John Deere S780. Now this is a combine that we use in soybeans and in corn. And there's two main questions I get asked about this thing all the time. The first and most common question being, how big is that grain hopper extension on top? And my answer to that is, we really don't know. The company that makes it, which is actually pretty local to us, doesn't advertise how big it is. Probably because they don't want you to know how much weight is up there. But we're guessing it's between 600 and 650 bushels. And the second question is, why do you guys run the big singles in the front rather than duals? Well, a couple different answers to that. When we had our S680 back in the day, we had the big duals on it. And the duals, they're really, really big duals, and they were so close together that I had a hard time putting my hand this way through the duals. And they're so close together, the second you went through mud, they would instantly clog up. And it's just, the combine was absolutely worthless in any sort of mud whatsoever. And second of all, with all that weight up top, we actually cracked two dual rims with that combine. And ever since we moved to the S780, now this is our third S780 with the big singles on, and we have not had a single rim issue at all with these. And these things are fantastic in mud. The only real downside of the big singles in the front is the road. They bounce really bad going down the road, but you know, when you have a head in the front, you probably shouldn't be going full speed down the road anyway. So one extra thing to note is that this combine is rear wheel assisted, as you can see. The 9870 is not. Now here's something that it seems like absolutely everybody loves. This is our 60-foot organic row crop cultivator. Now obviously it doesn't have to be used in organic, but that's where we use it. So we built it for, well, basically one reason. We have 110 acres of organic certified corn this year. Next year it'll be around 250, and the year after that it'll probably be around 400. And the second reason we built it is because, like I said many times before, compaction. We want to try and get as big of a cultivator as we could, so that we could stay in the planter tracks, so that we could keep the compaction to one spot. So with this cultivator, we can actually stay in the planter tracks every single pass. Now we custom built this cultivator, so we bought the bar off, I think, Facebook Marketplace of all places. A guy local to us, or a shop local to us, actually built the bar custom. When we got it, it did not have this bridging on it, and we were afraid of all this weight that we'd have some some structure issues. So we had a local shop put all this bridging support on top for us. And my dad went and bought 24 John Deere 856 cultivator units, and we mounted them to the bar. And surprisingly, after we just did a little bit of maintenance, a little bit of fixing here and there, we went to the field and it worked like right away, which we were not expecting. We were expecting to have to do a lot of adjusting, you know, at least a good day's worth of adjusting, but we put it down and it just immediately started working. So, and it worked absolutely fantastic. In fact, we were actually able to go through some pretty tall corn with it, which is kind of exciting. So I'm not much of a truck guy, but I guess I'll talk about the trucks for a little bit. Currently we have, let me think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. We currently have 8 semi-trucks. I think we are planning on selling one of them. But at the current moment we have 8. They're all Max, and 6 of them are white. So you can imagine the confusion we have when we say, hey, can you go grab the white Mac? Or hey, you know the white Mac sitting in the field, can you bring that here? Trying to distinguish between 6 almost identical trucks is kind of hard, but. And our grain trailers, they are all, I have no idea how many we have, 3 or 4 or 5 maybe, I don't know. They're all 41-foot Wilson pace setters, except for we do have one Timpty, which is not in the shed at the current moment. Here in the shop, well, we have 2 things. First of all, we have our Case IH 875 ripper. It's a 9-shank ripper. Yep. And in front of it, we have our John Deere 9530T. Now, the 9530T has been an old and faithful servant for us for a long time. 2010, actually, the same age as the 8320R, I guess. But back in 2010, when we bought it, we used it for basically everything, because at the time, it was our only big frame tractor. So we used it for field cultivating in the spring. We used it for towel plow in the summer, V-ripping in the fall. And then sometimes after we get done V-ripping in the fall, we'd actually put it back on the towel plow. But ever since probably 4 or 5 years ago, we leased a Cat 865E tractor. And so now this doesn't get used as much because we're trying to put the hours on the lease tractor. But this tractor still field cultivates in the spring, and every once in a while it gets put on the towel plow. And in the fall, it usually does a couple fields of chisel plowing. Now, one thing you'll probably notice is that we don't have our saddle tanks on the side of it right now. And the reason for that is the saddle tanks are only used for field cultivating. So what we do is we actually have a row of spray nozzles on the front of our, we actually have a row of spray nozzles on the front of our field cultivator, and we actually put down pre-emerge on with the field cultivator in front of the planter. And we used to put the tank that holds the chemical directly on the field cultivator, but it never really worked very well. So the advantages of the side saddle tanks are, first of all, each of them are 500 gallons. So you have a lot more storage capacity than you would if you had the tank on the cultivator itself. Second of all, if they're on the tractor, your compaction increase is very minimal. And third of all, on the tractor, even though there's 1,000 gallons now on the tractor, which is like what, 8,300 pounds, you can't even, driving the tractor, you can't even tell they're on there. Here in the cab, you'll see, well, probably a couple things. First of all, this ancient piece of technology, and this probably even more ancient piece of technology, and power shift transmission, but the power shift transmissions in the 9000 series tractors are actually 18 speeds, not 16 speeds. Little fun fact. But again, to these now. So this is just a sprayer controller that runs the spray nozzles on our field cultivator. But this is an old John Deere brown box. Once again, this thing's probably older than I am. So, you know, a lot of the new modern touchscreen fancy guidance monitors, they do mapping, and they let you control your planter, and let you control your sprayer, and have all these cool things. This tractor doesn't need any of that. This tractor just simply needs to go in a straight line because all it really does is tillage. So the brown box is a cheap and easy way to get steering. Now these, that and that, are our John Deere 6000 High Boy sprayers. They are super slow, adrenaline boosting, super bumpy, knock your head around your brain spraying machines. Yeah. So we use these things for spraying a fungicide in our corn after tassel, and this year we actually did all of our corn with it. And I can hear it through the screen now. Hey Carson, why don't you guys just go buy a Haggie? Well, there's one very simple answer to that. While we would love to have a Haggie, these are paid for. So overall, these two machines are very similar. This one's actually quite a bit older. In fact, this one actually has a really cool thing about it. Excuse my jog. But this is actually a really early one. If you look at the serial number, it is serial number 427. And now John Deere, they start their serial numbers at 100. So this is actually the 327th John Deere 6000 made. This one has a very simple cab. As you can tell, you basically have this turns the pump on and off, clutch, 4-speed transmission, steering wheel, brakes. The only thing that you have to control your spray rate is this pressure gauge. Left boom on, right boom on, booms off. This is boom height adjustment and throttle, and then you have all your gauges. And we added a light bar guidance system. My brother's sprayer here was actually, the previous owner was Beck's Hybrids. So they had it all geared up to do trials. So that's what the marking system and all the cones are on the back for. This one also has, they both have 300-gallon tanks, but this one has a sump so you can actually empty the tank all the way, whereas the one that I drive, when the pump goes dry, there's still about 20 gallons left in the tank. They both have 60-foot booms, but the cab of this one, as you will see, is a little bit different. Not much. So, this one being quite a bit newer, the steering column is a little updated. Doesn't really change much. Still the same 4-speed transmission. He has all these gauges up here for all his cones. He has a light bar system mounted in front instead of just hanging off to the side. They bypassed the mechanical pump switch, so it's actually an electronic pump control now. And then he actually has a speed sensor and a flow rate control thing, so he can actually just type in how many gallons per acre he wants on his little monitor here and just go. He doesn't have to adjust any pressure. And probably one of the coolest things about these 6000 High Boys is they came with a hitch that you can hook up to the front wheel, so you can actually pull them. So we actually pull ours behind our semi truck, so that way we can have two people. So I would usually just drive my sprayer to the field. My brother would take the semi, pull this, so we could have two people, yet have two sprayers and the semi to fill it up. So that's our John Deere 8410T. My dad bought it last fall, actually about a year ago. He bought it for the organics, so that's what we use to pull our 60-foot row crop cultivator. But it does other odd jobs here and there, so this is a field that's currently being converted to organic, and we combined rye on it, but we have some weeds popping up here, so he's disking those down. And also we'll use it to disc down what we've tiled up here. And every once in a while in the fall, it gets put on a little 3-point V-ripper that rips our end rows up. And this is our Challenger MT865E. Well, it's not actually technically ours, it's a lease tractor. And actually, it's on its last few months of the lease. So after this fall, after it gets done V-ripping, it's bye-bye kitty cat. But anyways, we got this tractor, I think we got 5 years ago. And it took over a lot of what the 9530T did. So it runs side by side with the 9530T field cultivating in the spring. And then during the summer, it gets a towel plow put on it, which is right here. And in the fall, it'll get the V-ripper put back on it. And then after the V-ripper, it would usually go back to towel plow. But I think right after V-ripping this year, it's leaving. So we'll put the towel plow probably back on the 9530T. And we're not quite for sure what we're going to replace it yet with. So subscribe to figure that out. Well, I hope you guys had more fun watching that than I had making it. But anyways, fall is coming very soon, and there will be plenty of harvest footage. So get subscribed and check it out. See you in the next one.